The State Historical Society of North Dakota holds over 85,000 pieces in our museum collections. One special artifact that we're conserving today has to do with the Spanish-American War from 1898 and 1899 and the North Dakotans who served there as part of the 1st Infantry North Dakota Volunteers. It was the first international war that North Dakotans had an opportunity to be a part of because we became a state in 1889, about 8.5 years before this conflict. This 45-star flag was carried through an environment in the Philippines. It was hot, it was humid, the men had terribly warm uniforms to wear, and their supplies were being carried by water buffalo on two-wheeled carts. So it shows their dedication, their perseverance, their patriotism. Later, the 1st Infantry would be renamed the 164th Regiment. They would be the first unit into Guadalcanal during World War II. This flag represents an important U.S. story as well as an important North Dakota story.
Well, this flag is just one, really cool, but it's important because one of the things that it has on it is 1st Infantry North Dakota Volunteers. Unfortunately, the Dakota and the Volunteers part of what's written on the flag is missing. But we do have these, so when they do the conservation work, have these get put into the right place for display purposes, and then maybe come up with a way of ghosting in the rest of the letters so that you can see what it says. You know, we have to decide that, of course, when the time comes. And we also have a wonderful photograph of this flag and the 1st North Dakota state flag in the Philippines with two guys holding those flagpoles. When we moved from the Liberty Memorial Building to this building in the 80s, it was rolled up onto the staff and placed into storage, and it had been sitting there for a long time. We knew it existed. When we unrolled it, or looked at it, tried to unroll it, we realized that this edge was just too damaged, and we did not have the skills it took to do it and to make sure we did it safely. So that's why we have a conservator here, trying to help us preserve this thing as long as possible so that it can be around for future generations to see.
So once we got it unrolled on top of this de-sized piece of muslin cotton, next I humidified this whole end with my humidifier just to open up all of these crumpled up bits, because these were all kind of like, you know, crumpled up and stuck under places or stuck under the fringe. This is weighted silk. Weighted silk has metallic salts added as part of the dyeing process. It is very difficult silk to work with because when it degrades, it becomes so fragile that you could crunch it up in your hand and you would end up with fragments. Once it breaks down, you really are, at best, preserving what is in front of you. The blue silk is in better shape because it's further back on the flag, and that's because as the flag is flying, it's snapping. And that's why the fly edge is always a mess. There are several historic field repairs that you can see on here. They're executed in silk thread, and they're very, very finely stitched. It's a piece of historical use, and I wouldn't remove it because it's part of the history of this flag. Flags are a little different than other things. We don't like to wash them. We consider their dirt sacred. We don't want to remove anything. We want to keep it as whole and as present as possible. And it's difficult to do with flags because they receive so much wear out in the field. And now what I'm doing is I'm finally combing out the fringe so that it won't be so bulky when they roll it. Because what would happen is the fringe would roll on itself and create some space in between the layers as it's rolling, because this is thicker than this. So things that can be found in the fringe are chaff, seeds, as well as fragments from the flag. But those chaff and seeds often document where the flag was used. You can actually have a botanist analyze it and say, okay, this documents that this flag was there at that time because these things were growing at that time. There was a piece, and it's in here. I don't know where it is now. Oh, here it is. Ha! Let me get a bag. I'm sorry, I'm working now. The other thing that's interesting about this flag is that it has areas of loss in the white stripe down here and in the white stripe up here. And they go all the way back. And I think what happened is when it was furled on its pole, somebody tied 2 cotton ribbons around it. And when they did it, they tied it tight. And what happened is we got a lot of fractures through here and a lot of fractures through here. They're also discolored, they're darkened slightly, and I believe that's a bit of acidic degradation byproduct building up. Cotton is acidic and it's transferring those acidic byproducts. It's changing what's happening in the silk and discoloring it. It's really interesting what goes on with this and how we preserve it, and you know, it's going to need a pressure mount. It's just too fragmented.